Hi, welcome back. In the last video we installed Express, we brought it in, we started using it for our routes to make it easier to have post and get routes without adding extra code, and to add a /API/prefix to our API based URL. In this video we're going to start to work on authentication and on signing up users in particular, so let's do that. Before we start writing any code, let's go to our project dashboard. Let's go to authentication and enable it by clicking here, set up sign-in method, and here on email/password, let's enable it and click save. Let's go to our project settings and let's go here, your apps, and let's grab this config object. And let's go to our project. Now we're going to be using the Firebase library, which is actually a client library, but we're going to use it to sign in and sign up our users and get authentication tokens. So let's cd into functions and let's run npm install --save Firebase. Okay, so let's initialize our Firebase application. Let's import it. So const Firebase equals require Firebase, and let's do Firebase dot initialize app, and we need to pass it that config object. Let's do here const, and let's paste in our config, actually not var, const, and let's take this config and pass it to as the argument to initialize app, so that Firebase knows which app we're talking about. Let's actually make this express line express into one line by doing require express and calling it on the same line. I think it just looks neater like this, and let's put it up here. Let's create our sign up route. Let's delete this comment, replace it with another comment saying sign up route, and this would be a post route, so app.post, and it would be /signup, and it's going to have a handler, so request response as the arguments. And now we need to extract the form data from our request body. So let's do const new user equals an object, and it's going to have an email. If you remember, our form has an email, a password, a confirm password, and a handle field. So let's do email equals request.body.email, comma, and let's copy this line and paste it 3 more times. Select email, control D, and do password. Select email, control D, confirm password, and handle. We're not gonna validate the data for now, but let's write a to-do here, validate data, and let's sign up our user. So let's use the Firebase package we installed, firebase.auth as a function like this, .create user with email and password, and let's pass it exactly that. So new user.email, and the second argument will be new user.password. This returns a promise, so let's do then data, which I think is credentials. It's user credentials. So let's do, if we are here, that means we've successfully registered. So let's return a response dot status of actually 201, which means resource created. Let's give a JSON object with a message with a template string, because we need to use a variable. Let's say user, and let's do $curly braces to use a variable data.user.uid, which stands for user ID, and let's say signed up successfully. And of course let's catch any potential errors, and let's console.error the error, and let's return res.status of 500 server error, and it's gonna have a JSON with an error. Let's pass the error code. Let's return it in case there's any error. Let's save, and let's run Firebase serve and see if this is working. Let's copy this endpoint Let's go to Postman. Actually, I already have it, so let's do /signup instead of screams, and it's gonna be a post request. It's gonna have a body of type application JSON. So we're gonna have an email. Let's say this is user@email.com. We're gonna have a password of 123456. Oops, we're gonna have a confirm password, which does nothing right now, but it will later. 123456, and the handle, which is gonna be user. So let's send this request, and we get user, the ID of the user signed up successfully, and we get our code of 201. Cool. So if we go to our Firebase project, let's close this, let's go to authentication, and there we go, we got our user with this user ID right here. Let's copy this user ID, and I'll tell you why in a second. What we need to do right now is that Firebase by default doesn't allow us to store more information about our users in the authentication collection, but what we can do manually is we can create, of course right now manually, but later programmatically, we can create a collection here, we call it users, and this will store documents. For each user we will have one document that holds extra details that we need, such as the handle, and later like a bio, image URL, any extra details that you want to add. So, and the key thing that I want to do here is that our users, of course by default, because of Firebase, even though we can change this, but by default each user is each email is restricted to one user, so the email has to be unique. But we want to also have the handle as a unique thing, like, of course, because this website is kind of like a copy of Twitter, so our handles will be unique. So we can use our handles as the ID. So here, let's not do auto ID, and let's give the ID of the user that we just created, which is user, as the document ID. And here we're gonna have a user ID key, and the value of that is the ID we just copied. And we're gonna have a created at, and let's give this a timestamp, the date today, and say, I don't know, midnight, it doesn't matter. Let's add another field. This is gonna hold, what does this hold actually? Yeah, let's put the email actually, because if we need it, we're gonna have it here. So user@email.com. I think this is all what we have for now. So let's save. So now what we need to do, each time someone signs up, we need to check this collection, and we need to make sure that this handle is not taken. So if right now, if someone tries to sign up with a handle of user, the desired behavior should be you cannot sign up because this handle is already taken. And if they try to sign up with the same email, Firebase will automatically give them that error. So let's actually write the code that checks for the handle being unique. Let's look at our let's do db dot. Actually, we don't have db yet. Okay, let's change something. I saw this in the Firebase documentations, and I like it. Let's do db, const db equals admin.firestore as a function like this. And wherever we need Firestore, we just do db dot. So let's replace, wherever we find admin.firestore like this, we replace it with db because it makes more sense. So db, and there we go. Okay, so in our sign up route, we need to do db.collection users.document. Actually, we can do document without the collection. So let's do db.document, and we need to pass it the path. So let's do a template string, and the path will be /users for the collection, and the document will be, let's do $ curly braces new user dot handle, and let's do .get, and of course this returns a promise, and this will hold a as we see here, document snapshot. Yes, document snapshot. So doc, and the way Firebase works, even if this document doesn't exist, we'll have a snapshot. So what we need to do is we need to have a conditional here, say if doc.exists, which is a boolean. If this document exists, it's true. So if this document exists, then this is a problem because this handle is already taken. So let's return res.status of let's give 400, a bad request, and let's give a JSON response. And the way we're going to structure our React app is that we're going to return not an array, an object containing errors. And if the error pertains to any field, let's say if the error pertains to the email, the error's name will be email. So in this case, the error's name will be handle. And the message will be, this handle is already taken. All right. And if this document doesn't exist, then cool, let's create this user. So let's do here. So let's do Firebase. So let's do this, Firebase dot all of this. Now Firebase.auth, create user with email and password, new user, email, and this. But since we're already in a then block, we need to return this. So return. So we return this, and then we chain another dot then, so that we will have the result or like the return promise from this call here. Which will hold data. Let's do here. Now this, if we get here, that means we have our user created. What we need to do now is I want to return an access token, an authentication token to our user, so that the user will later use to request more data. So we can do that by, we know that in data here we have access to the ID. So let's do user ID equals data.user.uid for user ID. And we can do actually user ID, or is it user ID? Actually, we can even call it on the user itself. We don't need this. So we can do data.user.getID token. Right now, it's not recognizing the type for some reason, but this should work. Get ID token, and this actually is it returns a promise. So let's do return like this, and yeah, like this, and then let's chain another dot then, and this will have a token. So token. Don't know why the types are not being being displayed properly, but let's just go with it. Let's return the token. So let's return the response.json. Let's give the status again of 201.json token. We can just say token like this because the name of the property and the name of the value are the same. So token like this should have the value of our token. Okay, let's delete this code here, and let's do a .catch error in case any error happens. Console.error, the error, and let's return it as a response. Res.status 500 JSON with an error.code. Cool. Okay, let's not put them side by side. Let's run the same. Let's actually register a new user. So let's say new at email, the same password, and the handle is new. This should return us a token, and it does. So we have an access token right now, and this we will use to use whenever we need to access a route that is protected. Okay, let's try to actually register a user that already exists. So let's send the same request. So send, we should get, and there we go, we get an internal server error, email already exists. Okay, so this shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't get, actually no, this should be happening because it's the error from here. So let's handle it here. We don't want to return it like this. We want to check if the code of the error is this code exactly here. That means it's not a server error, it's just actually, it is a client error technically. So what we need to do here, we can do if error.code, not code, equals this string auth, email already in use. We need to return, yeah, I think, yeah, 400. Let's give a res.status 400.json, and the error pertains to email, so it's the email, and we say email is already in use. And if it's anything else, so else, return this. And do we handle any other errors? I think we don't. Okay, so let's go to Postman again. Let's send this request. Cool, email is already in use. Now, we haven't yet created a field for this. We need to create not a field, a document for our user whenever they register. So let's do that. So right here, before we get the token, do we do it before we get the token? Actually, we don't return this token here. So let's store it in a variable. Let's do here, let token, initialize token here. And then here we have, let's do token equals token. And here, instead of returning a response, let's do const user credentials equals, and let's create our user document. So this will have a handle of new user.handle, and we will have the email of new user.email, and we will have a created at, which will be new date to ISO. Why do I always type the N after ISO? Okay, to ISO string, make sure you didn't misspell anything. And we need the user ID here. User ID, oh, actually, how do we access the user ID? Oh, we need to put the user ID as well in a variable so that we can access it. So let's declare the user ID here. And we have access to it here. So let's do user ID equals data.user.uid, and then we use it here. Oops, not this, user ID. Or we can just do this because it's the same name. Okay, here we need to persist these credentials into a document in our collection, in our users collection. So we need to do db.document, and this will be in the users collection. Don't forget, by the way, template literal string. So /user/ and we'll give it the handle as the document ID. So this will be new user.handle, and we need to do .set, which creates the document, unlike get. So let's pass this user credentials. Oh, this returns a promise. I keep forgetting, so let's return it. And then let's do yet again another then. I promise you, I'm pretty sure this is the last then. What do we get? We get some data here. What type of data? It's a right result. This is actually useless, so let's just not even use it. Okay, return res.json. Res.status, let's give the status. I can just return 200, but I just like to return 201 once something is created. So status 201 JSON, and we need the token. So token, yeah, this will work because it's the same name. Yeah, the same name, the property. And let's save. Let's actually let me delete this. Let's delete the entire document, the entire collection, and let's delete these two users because I don't want to keep coming up with new emails. Okay, let's test this out. Make sure we saved. We did, or I did. Make sure you saved as well. Let's do, this is user again. User has to be the first one. Okay, send. Let's cross our fingers. and hope for a token, and we get 201 but an empty object. Interesting. Let's go here, refresh, we get our user, we go to the database. A user's collection has been created, cool, and the ID is user, and we have the details here, everything is fine, but why don't we get the token back? Okay, so the problem was variable naming ambiguity. I named this token and this was token as well, and okay, so this is token now, and then I renamed the return from the promise to ID token, and then assigned token this token to this ID token, and then here as the response I return token, which will hold the value of this. And if we test this, we go here and we do new 5, I don't know, new 5, and we post, and we get the token back. Cool. Alright, I would keep with validation and stuff like this, but this video is getting long, so let's continue in the next one.